From meeting room wisdom to bestseller lists, changemakers to chapter ones, this is where expertise meets legacy. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another mind-expanding episode of Authors on Mission, where we don't just talk about writing books, we talk about the raw truths that transform industries and lives. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, Chief Creative Officer here at Authors on Mission. Today, we're diving into the deep end with a man who doesn't just break barriers, he demolishes them with precision, purpose, and zero apologies. Dave Anderson isn't just a 21-time best-selling author, he's an entrepreneurial force known as the business bully. He's the voice that's helped over 100,000 business owners scale without selling their souls, the architect behind one of the most unflinching examinations of systematic inequality you'll ever read. His latest book, The Real Black Agenda, isn't just asking politely for a seat at the table, it's building a whole new table and inviting those ready for unvarnished truth. So everybody listening today, whether you're here for the business insights, the cultural commentary, or the masterclass in authentic messaging, please prepare to have your assumptions challenged and your excuses silenced, and of course, be ready for some new writing tips. This isn't just an author interview, it's a wake-up call and a conversation. Without further ado, Dave, welcome to the Authors on Mission podcast.
Danielle, I want to let you know, first of all, the check is in the mail, because that was a phenomenal introduction, and thank you for having me.
I will be checking the mailbox. No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on. As I was telling you, just before we pressed that record button, you have an amazing back history of incredible things that you've accomplished and just paving the road for some remarkable transformations in the world. So thank you so much for joining us.
It's an honor and a pleasure. I thank God every day that I get to do what I do for a living.
And so humble too.
Give it a minute.
Well, let's let that minute pass then. Please go ahead and brag about yourself as much as you can. We would love to hear a little bit more about your experiences and, kind of what led you to first putting your fingers on the keyboard and starting writing. So, how did you get into this world in particular? Maybe perhaps a very brief rundown. I'm sure there's a huge back history there. We always like to learn a little bit more though.
Sure. I come from a long line of educators. My mother, grandmother, stepfather, even my oldest daughter is a teacher. And growing up, anybody else would have a regular book report. Not in my family. Book reports were family events to show off. And so syntax was judged, writing style and cadence was always important. And of course, for me, I was an avid reader. I loved comic books. I love hip hop, so I'm a huge fan of poetry, grew up with Maya Angelou and, Richard Wright and those types of individuals. And for me, writing allowed me to express my feelings when other people couldn't really understand. So journaling, things of that nature. And I started becoming an author because I felt like there was a voice that was missing, one that was authentic and wasn't, bogged down by the media and controlled by big publishing houses. Nothing against the big publishing houses. If anyone wants to write me a check, I'll take one. But the thing of it is, I wanted to be as unfiltered as humanly possible, just like I was in my radio career. And so one book led to 21, which has now led to 22 consecutive bestsellers. So I'm extremely excited.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a huge number of titles under your belt, for example. And not only that, but I'm sure every single one of them is just as powerful as the one we're going to be discussing today. So you not only have your name on all these books out on the shelves, but you're transforming lives too and inspiring anybody who picks them up.
No, it's the greatest joy to help somebody not only realize that they have a purpose outside of a typical 9-to-5, but to show them how to take that purpose and make money. I've had clients who have retired their spouses, taken care of their parents, bought new houses. I had one client that did so well, she bought her husband a car dealership and then moved to South Africa. So life is amazing when you're able to unlock other people's passions and then put money behind it. So again, I'm just thrilled at this point in my life to be here, because I've had a lot of turmoil throughout my life, and I'm just in a phenomenal space, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, and well, speaking of that, that back history there, I did see that you actually attended a school in Philadelphia. You had some resources that were quite limited, and I can see how that experience might have shaped your perspective on, systems and opportunity. Would you mind shining a light on that a little bit?
Yeah, Danielle, I went to Martin Luther King High School, and when I got there were 1,000 freshmen. And I would say by my sophomore year, all the things that I was involved in, so drama slash theater, the band, the choir, all the funding for that got cut in my sophomore year. So I went from playing 7 instruments and singing to going to class and being absolutely bored to tears and then terrorized because the neighborhood I grew up in was not exactly the safest. And then we were ruled one of the worst high schools in America. And they brought everybody from Reverend Jesse Jackson to Joe Clark, who's famous for that Morgan Freeman movie Lean on Me, into the school. We had metal detectors, but they gave us Domino's pizza. And I remember my aunt, Sydney Beckett, asked me on my graduation day what I was most proud of when it came to graduating high school. And I told her very frankly, in my own 17 going on 18-year-old way, surviving. It was scary every day. You didn't know if you were going to inadvertently tick somebody off, and just dealing with that and not having resources when you see other kids in other parts of the city having computers on every desk and brand new choir robes and instruments that they could just pick and choose from, and if they wanted to switch they could because there was plenty of instruments to have. It made me realize that there's an inequality that nobody likes to talk about, especially if they're not experiencing it firsthand. And that's what kind of led me on this journey. And I've always been one to stand up for inequality, even when I was in the broadcasting industry, even when it's cost me jobs and opportunities, because I think the one thing that everybody has, according to our founding documents in this country, is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if you're blocking that pursuit based upon race or economic inequalities that are as much circumstantial as they are cultural, then we need to address that inequality.
Yeah, and one thing I did see that you say is, as you address that inequality, you actually describe yourself as, quote, the unapologetic voice of a generation that's tired of fluff and allergic to failure. So I can see how that kind of goes hand in hand. You've always been direct, and you found your voice through being so just,
Oh, yeah.
cutting edge, saying what needs to be said.
Yeah, it's always been important. Philly is a very say what you mean what you say type of city. People talk about the city of brotherly love, but we also boot Santa Claus out of an arena. I think people aren't dying from a lack of inspiration. They're dying from a lack of truth. And the same way that I knew weed dealers and coke dealers and crack dealers, I became a truth dealer. And I think dealing out the truth is a thankless job, but it's worth it because once you've been exposed to it, you can't go back. And to me, that's the most important thing, giving people the truth, whether it disrupts your political ideologies or your spiritual ideologies or how you think the world is all moonshine and puppies and My Little Pony and rainbows. I think telling the truth no matter what, and understanding that that's all you have in this life, because your body's going to pass away. Your legacy will come down to the truth that you told and who you impacted. And so I'm a huge believer in being as truthful as humanly possible.
Definitely, and I can see how that resonates not only in across your many books, but also on your, Instagram presence. I was looking through it a little bit, and not only that, but it translates directly into the book we're going to be talking about today. So perhaps this is a good time to transition directly into that.
Sure.
I picked it up myself. Well,
Mhm.
on Amazon, so not quite. I was looking through it. It starts with a bold statement: "The system isn't broken; it's functioning exactly how it was engineered." Which directly relates to what you were just saying. It's not puppies and sunshine and rainbows, but something
Right.
that we have to not only recognize but amend. So, was there a moment when you realized this perspective needed to be your book's foundation? What made you choose this topic in particular? And can you elaborate a little bit about how it changed your view of success stories in general?
Sure, Danielle. The first thing I want to let you know, full
Yeah.
confession, this might be an exclusive on your show.
Oh,
I've been black for almost 5 decades now.
well,
I didn't know if you noticed, but the moment I realized that black people, we kept marching for access to a table that was never built for us in the first place. So I say the system isn't malfunctioning; it's doing its job. It's gatekeeping, it's extracting, and it's gaslighting. You should be happy. You've got a black vice president. You've had a black president. You got black billionaires and millionaires and people who own basketball teams now. And once I realized that the hustle was deeper than just keeping us out, it was gaslighting us in the process. I stopped trying to fix it and started teaching people how to outbuild it, because you can't, no matter what you do. Me and my kid one day, my youngest, she's 10, we were watching Kung Fu Panda, and Master Sifu was explaining to Kung Fu Panda that, you can control where you plant a seed. But no matter what you do, if you're planting a peach seed, it's not going to give you oranges no matter how good you water it, no matter what you do. And that's the thing. If you're telling somebody that this is an orange plant, and we know good and heck well that it is a peach plant, all we're going to get is the pits. And in order to have a conversation, Ian Van Zandt says, "Beloved, you have to call a thing a thing." And so that's what I started to do, to show people that it's more than just black excellence that we need to be striving for. We need to be striving for ownership and control of our own narrative.
yeah, exactly. And speaking of black excellence, one thing that you did say, it's not proof of progress. It's proof that you have to survive in spite of what we understand as the trap. It's something that has to be changed. I completely agree with everything you've said here.
Sure.
And it's true. You challenge it. You say it's comfortable lies, and I agree. It's comfortable to just pretend that it's not there, that it's not existing, no matter how hard we're working to get past it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you want to speak about it a little bit more. I mean, I
Yeah.
know how, again, it's challenging to speak of, but you need to be a little bit uncomfortable. I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing of it is, we confuse visibility with victory,
Mhm.
right? So we have 40 million black people in America. One black billionaire does not fix all our problems, right? We've also gotten this thing, even when I was a goober, even before I was born in the 70s. You look at the show Good Times, what are they doing? Scratching and surviving. Good Times. No, that's not good. Trying to get out of the ghetto is not a goal. It's not a side quest on some Grand Theft Auto type mission. Like, we have to understand that while celebrating survival is not a win, it's a warning. And I had to unlearn the idea that making it out means the system works. It just means that I figured out how to breathe underwater. I've had to adapt. And when we talk about comfortable lies, one of the biggest ones is, oh, well, education will fix everything. I have more degrees than a thermometer, and it doesn't matter. This is still a cold world, right? If education was a magic bullet, Danielle, then every HBCU or PWI grad would be living like Oprah. Hard work is important, but only when it's leveraged. And what happens is, a lot of our hard work gets exploited. If we follow the rules, that only works when you write them. Otherwise, you're playing a rigged game. And that's what I address in my brand new book, The Real Black Agenda, available in bookstores everywhere and on thebusinessbully.com.
But first up, please hold up the book one more time for us. Let's get a good look at that cover page. Of course, it's just, power stance right there. I like it a lot. But now we can all take a look. We know what to search for when we're looking on Amazon and everywhere else to pick it up.
Yeah.
But Dave, one thing that I think resonated most when you were speaking just now is that little quote you said, you have as many degrees as a thermometer, because you do specifically cite statistics about Black college graduates, how they have to carry as much student debt, facing higher unemployment rates than
Yes.
others, which I think directly relates to what you were just saying.
Right.
Relating that into kind of the writing process itself and everything in between, you must have had to do a lot of research for this.
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
gather these facts, making sure that it was sound and hard facts and everything was accurate. And if you don't mind giving us a little bit more about that process.
The thing of it is, a lot of times, and I found myself in really blessed positions just by saying yes to phenomenal opportunities. Before live streaming was a huge thing, there was a thing called Meerkat. Before Meerkat, there was a thing called Hang With. And their founders approached me to be a founding member, and people were like, well, I don't believe a black guy's behind this because I don't see the black guy on the masthead. I'm like, I'm not the original founder. I'm one of the founding members of the board. And to see a black guy in tech at that particular point in history, we're going back 10, 11 years, was really unbelievable. And so people could not understand until I dragged the actual founder onto a live stream and say, no, he's a part of this, he's helped with this, that, and the third. We are very skeptical people. And so there's an entire chapter in the back of this book. I call it receipts and references. In college, you call it a bibliography. And I put in every chapter everything that I've referenced. This was researched. And then I had 3 different fact checking agencies check out everything in the book because I didn't want any room for lies or conjecture. Now, there are stories in there that I've backed up by emails and text messages and eyewitness accounts, even news articles to back up what I said, because I need people to understand that I'm not just somebody popping off at the mouth and pontificating like I've solved Black America's problem. I don't want to sound like Joe Biden did at that last debate last summer. We said, I beat Medicare. I want you to know that what I'm talking about is rooted in not emotion, but facts. Because when we take the emotion out of it and we're dealing with the Bureau of Labor Statistics, when we're dealing with stats from the U.S. Department of Education, when we're looking at economic studies from Pew Research, you can't say that I'm in my feelings or I need to stop whining or get over it. You have to look at the numbers that did not come from me and a lot of times did not come from Black people. So when you look at it from that lens, you have to stop and say, okay, there may be some merit to what this guy is sitting here saying. And the writing process for me was long and arduous, but it took me, there's 2 versions of this book, by the way. The first one will never see the light of day because I felt like it had so much hellfire and brimstone that allies and people who were not privy to the Black experience would be so turned off by it that I didn't water it down, but I dialed back some of the rhetoric, because sometimes you have to, if you've ever been upset about something and when you're seeing it for the first time, you kind of scream out into the void. The first version of the book was me screaming out into the void, and then I got all that out. Woosah. And then I said, okay, we're going to go back and we're going to rewrite this in a way that states the problems and then talks about focusing on the solution, which was the other part of this. I didn't want to just do another research paper disguised as a book that lectures to you. I wanted to provide viable solutions so that people could take actionable steps towards healing and growth and scaling and taking ownership and pride in our communities. And that's how we got here. But it wasn't too hard once I got started. I wrote it like we talk about things in the barbershop, just truth, receipts, and real life grit, and my life isn't separated from the message. It's weaved all throughout it. And so because the trauma is real, the solutions need to hit you in the chest and in the mind. And that's the mindset I went in when I came up with the final version that everybody has.
Well, thank you for walking us through a little bit about that whole process there. I definitely see what you mean, where your first draft did come from pure emotion, anger, fire. I wish you would release that, first draft for us, to see
Oh, it's coming.
authentic punch. Oh, yeah?
It's coming, but I needed this one to get out first before we dive deep into the hellfire and brimstone. I wanted people to, sometimes you gotta let somebody dip their toe in the hot water and get used to it before you just throw the boiling water on their heads. It's kind of like taking a shower with my wife, and anybody who's married can relate, because for some reason women want the shower really, really hot. And I figured I'd give you a little bit of the regular hot water before I give you the boiling teapot that is the uncensored version of the Real Black Agenda. So it's coming.
Yeah, and I guess if you're making the shower metaphor, sometimes you need to jump into the shower with it a little bit more lukewarm temperature before you turn it up all the way. So I see what you mean by that. And just speaking purely from the writer's perspective, I can see why you would do that. It's important to first, draw the audience in, speak to them. You mentioned a lot about having the right tone, and not only that, but verifying your facts and everything to make sure that there is nothing they could possibly say about accuracy to deny that credibility behind everything, and making sure that your message is the one that's getting across. So you definitely have an expert's eye out for that.
Sure, absolutely. And this is a departure from a lot of my other books. Most of my books have been about sales and business and entrepreneurship and marketing. And while there's elements of that in this is more about the love letter I have to Black America and everyone who benefits from Black America, which is all Americans. and understanding how culture is weaponized and monetized, and we very rarely cash in on it. I wanted people to understand that this is something that affects all of us. And when Black America thrives, all of America benefits. And so that's the thing. I want us to have real conversations, even if it makes us uncomfortable. Even if, because when I talk to white people specifically, a lot of times I'll hear, well, you were never a slave, and I've never been a slave master. I don't own anybody. And of course you don't. That's not the thing. And what I tell people all the time is, number one, I have white people in my family. Number two, I have white people who work for me. This is not that. And I don't want to come across like some of my best friends are white, but I need you to understand that nothing in this book is about hate. It's more about education. And the one thing that I know is two things. Every Black person in this country is still affected by the history of slavery, and every white person in this country benefits from the history of slavery. And when we come from that place and we understand that there are diametrically opposed but interlocking differences, we can then look towards ways to heal and still be accountable and still be responsible. That doesn't mean I'm going to come to your house and be like, hey, give me that brand new puppy you just got, Danielle. I'm not on that. Like, reparations, give me your puppy. No, this is not that. I want us to understand that this is about making sure that everybody benefits from the beautiful tapestry that America is supposed to be, and helping America live up to its promise.
Right. And well, to our audience listening, the reason you mentioned puppy is because I am getting a puppy later on today. Really excited for that. But I understand exactly what you mean by that. And you really do say it in such an authentic and just truthful way. Unapologetically, it has to be said. And, again, as I was looking through everything that you were writing, you are very direct in it. Just very short, impactful sentences, arithmetic repetition even.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, just the perfect way to get it out there. Just, grinding it into our heads, is blaring it out there. Were you inspired by any particular writers or speakers, or is it coming directly from go ahead, let me know.
Oh man, I was inspired by people like Les Brown. Les Brown was a mentor of mine, is a mentor of mine. I've toured with him. He has done forewords for some of my earlier books. Dick Gregory was also, God rest his soul, a mentor of mine. And he told me when I was still doing radio, he said, boy, once you put that mouth to something else other than introducing records and talking to rappers, you're going to be dangerous. So I looked at Dick Gregory's wit. I looked at Les Brown's rhythmic motivation. I looked at Malcolm X's precision, Thomas Sowell's facts, my grandmother, who we affectionately call Mimar, her kitchen table lectures. I write like I speak because I want people to feel it in their soul, and I don't want to ever speak above the room. A lot of times you get these intellectual scholars, and again, there are people who will say, well, you're an intellectual scholar, but I don't talk like one, and I don't feel like I have to throw my degrees in your face in order to have a conversation about pain we all experience. I want people to feel it in their soul and not just nod their head and forget it 5 minutes later. I want it to be impactful. And that's why this work is such a departure in many ways from my other writings, which is not only scary, because I didn't think anybody was, I was like, nobody's going to buy this book. They're not looking at this, looking for me to give them this. And I was pleasantly surprised when we hit #1 in 4 categories. I was like, wow, again. And that's, that tells me that there's a need for this, and the inspiration that God gave me was the right one. And so, I'm excited because this was such a departure, and it was super scary for me, but I'm happy I did it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely should be proud that you did it. Not only this one, but the one to come that's more like, the raw version of it too. But I can see how this was definitely stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit, being that your usual books are about business and leadership and that sort of realm. So I can see how the process itself was totally just different than your usual ones, for this being would this be the 22nd book then?
22nd bestseller.
Amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's well needed. For everybody listening today, this book is, for you to check out and learn more about, but it does cover everything, from sharecropping to, and I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce this word, COINTELPRO?
Yes, COINTELPRO, super important, Danielle. I just want to stop you right there because a lot of people don't even know, and I didn't know that this wasn't common knowledge. Black people, white people, scholars, famous people, celebrities who have read this book, they were like, what is COINTELPRO? So, fun little fact. J. Edgar Hoover, who is the founder and first executive director of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, had a counterintelligence program called COINTELPRO. So they were spying on Dr. Martin Luther King. They spied on Malcolm X. They spied on Dick Gregory. And this was a multi-bureau program where they were trying to infiltrate black organizations because there were two threats that J. Edgar Hoover was afraid of. The first one was black unity. He said black unity is the greatest threat to America. And then he said the last thing we want is the rise of another black messiah. And so they infiltrated everything from the Black Panther Party to the Nation of Islam to SNCC to Dr. Martin Luther King's innermost camp. Right? A lot of people don't know that Dr. Martin Luther King was not killed at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. He was killed by the FBI in 1990. In 1991, it was revealed that he was killed by the FBI. They snuffed him out in the operating room. And you can research this yourself because I know that's mind-blowing for a lot of people. But the thing of it is, the King family, Coretta Scott King, God rest her soul, sued the federal government and won because they actually killed Dr. Martin Luther King. You can look this up for yourself. That's what COINTELPRO is. And so, yeah, like that's the only fancy word you'll find in the book, but it's an important one because there are different versions of COINTELPRO happening right now. Just from, and not an FBI thing, but more of a cultural, media-backed, government-backed program that is designed to show our pain and then profit from it, take our talent and then put it on other performers while they get paid for it. That's why you had, there's a phenomenal documentary, I think it's called This Is Pop, where they talk about the rise of 98 Degrees, the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, so on and so forth. And when all those groups were looking for members, they said, we want Boyz II Men sound, but an Abercrombie look, meaning we want black sounding voices, but white looking kids. You know, so they love our rhythm, but they hate our blues. And that's the new COINTELPRO. So yeah, just to that point.
Well, I wouldn't have known myself. I do try to stay up to date with things, but thank you for kind of illuminating that. So it's great to know that this book not only shares the powerful message, but it gives us a little bit of history of things we might not have otherwise heard about. And it only further backs up everything you're saying as to how important it is for us to not only understand this, but make a change moving forward from it too.
Yeah, so, absolutely. No, yeah. It's critical.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about that, and I'm looking forward to looking more into this book now that I know more about this. So that I can get further informed about all of this. It's definitely something that's eye-opening and jarring, of course. Something I wouldn't have expected, but maybe would have expected, unfortunately, with this everything going on in the world, but. No.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Things in the world are great. They're big. Any other country, absolute losers. Trash. We love them. Elon. No, just.
Do you do impersonations on the side?
Yeah, no, I was a stand-up comedian for many, many years. So again, I wore a lot of hats because the thing that I was lucky to be blessed with, I had a mother who said, you can do whatever you'd like to do, but when you decide to leave it, you can't go back to it. That was the rule in the house. You want to pick up an instrument? Cool. You can pick up another one, but you can't let this one fall down. And so I realized very early on that we're not going to get to a equal society by raising a minimum wage. We're going to get to an equal society by raising and employing maximum skills. And so I wanted to do a lot of things really, really well because we don't know anything. You're a woman, I'm a man, I'm black, you look white. I don't know if you're white. I think you're white, but I can't say for sure. But anyway, you slice it, Danielle, the one thing that all human beings have ever had in common and will ever have in common is nobody's getting out of life alive. So to me, I wanted to do absolutely everything. That's why I did impersonations. That's why I've done television. That's why I've had record deals and, was a forerunner for podcasting. I want to make sure that when I'm gone, I die empty and I have lived the fullest life humanly possible.
Definitely. And, speaking of that, this book clearly isn't, the last thing you're doing here. I'm sure you already have your gears grinding. You're thinking about the next steps. I'm wondering, do you happen to have a sneak peek or hint as to what might be on the horizon for you? Everybody listening today is so inspired, so informed, looking forward for the book, but what might you be planning next?
This is an amazing situation. I've never done a book launch like this. I've written 23 books. The first one was a dud because I was trying to do fiction. I don't know what I was thinking. It's the only book that is not a bestseller. This book, I'm doing it a little bit differently. So I have the Real Black Agenda. I also have the Real Black Agenda Journal. For those of us who are Christian or faith based, I have a Real Black Agenda devotional that is coming out. And then for people who want to give this to younger readers but think it might be a little too heady, I've also am putting out a what I call a graphic manifesto, which is a fancy way of saying the comic book version of this. And I'm working on that. I'm actually building towards relaunching my streaming network so that we can give voices to other authors, creatives, talented individuals without the waiting for someone to say, hey, I'm going to sign you. And so I'm working on that stuff. I'm working on being a better husband and father every single day. And I have two more books that I actually was halfway through that I was working on. One was a follow-up to my last bestseller, which was Sell It Like Jesus, Principles and Strategies of the World's Greatest Salesman. And it is called Jesus the Influencer. And then my brother, unfortunately, in 2022, my brother Aaron, he's my hero, he passed away. And a lot of the things that happen in our community is my brother was 7 years older than me. He had to basically be what I called my brother. My Brad, he was my brother and my dad. And so a lot of the things that he had to teach me, because my father suffered from Alzheimer's and dementia and eventually passed away, my brother stepped up and taught me. And I wanted to impart those lessons not only for other kids who might not have that level of love and father figure in their life, but for my brother's three children who got to see him one way but did not experience him as a child while he was a child, and understand how he thought and those types of things. So I'm working on that. And always I'm coaching businesses and entrepreneurs. I'm building brands. I'm doing retreats in exotic locations for entrepreneurs who are serious. And, I'm excited and I stay open-minded to what God has for me next. And that's the beauty of taking in this life one day at a time. I'm excited to get up every day because I'm walking in my purpose. They say in America, 80% of the heart attacks happen on Monday morning between 6 o'clock and 9 because people are going to jobs that they hate. And the heart says that's not what you want to do, so it attacks you. I wake up every day because I'm paid to be who I am. And all my life, it's so funny. I'm just coming to this realization while I'm talking to you. So you're really good at this. You should do this more often. All my life, I realized that people want to make people fit in. And because I never fit in, I thought that there was something wrong with me. And what I realized is there is something right with me, and there's something wrong with the way we condition people to move about the world. Being cool is conformity. I don't ever want to conform. I like being me, you know? So that to me is extremely valuable, and I'm thrilled for every opportunity. I'm thrilled for everybody that gives me a platform like you so graciously did. I'm thrilled to be able to get on stages and talk to people, not just about business, but about the Real Black Agenda and how it affects everybody from all walks of life, regardless of race, creed, and color. Even though we're talking about Black issues, we are America. We're all in this together, and we all have a beautiful, unique, shared history that should be celebrated. Not just every February, but every single day. Morgan Freeman said something and got a lot of flack for it. He said, I don't believe in Black History Month because Black history is American history. And then he told Mike Wallace, if you want to improve race relations, stop referring to me as a Black man. I'm just Morgan Freeman. You're just Mike Wallace. We're just Morgan and Mike. We have love, we have families, we have things that we want to accomplish. And when we come from that place, understanding that it exists, yes, but not always leading with it, not always relying on it to the point where we can't see the humanity in each other. When it becomes a bridge versus a barrier, when it becomes an open door for conversation as opposed to a gate where we're keeping each other out and away because we're building a wall, it's going to be big, it's going to be huge. I think that's when we really make a phenomenal breakthrough and we live up to the promise of what our Constitution and our founding fathers sought out for us.
Well, first off, take a sip of water, a deep breath. That was a bunch of stuff right there. I really appreciate you walking me through everything there is to come. I think I most appreciated that you not only talked about the upcoming works, but also about, quote, being a better father and husband. I think that was just like a great thing to throw in there too. Just all of that personal life, professional life, and everything in between for the future, the present. I love that well-rounded, amazing response right there. And to everybody listening, you can tell just by Dave's passion in his voice how much this has to be said and understood. So again, please connect with Dave and stay up to date with all these incredible things that are, on the horizon. That being said, Dave, where can we best get in touch with you and stay up to date and continue to learn from you?
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram at the Business Bully. You can find all of my links there because I got 1,000,001 websites, but everything you could ever possibly need is there. You can look at my videos. You can book me to speak. You can get different deluxe packages of the Real Black Agenda, which is available in fine bookstores everywhere. But I tell people, if you get it on my site, I will sign it for you. I'll send it to you. We've got posters for the comic book and all that kind of good stuff. But the Business Bully, just like it sounds, no hip hop phonetics or weird spellings. I don't have any Z's in it. It's not all cool. I'm grammatically correct. So, I think that's the best way to catch up with me. And then if you're serious about working with me or learning from me or having me come out and speak to your group, your book club, your organization, your podcast, I'm always available. And I'm just thrilled that you gave me an opportunity to have this conversation. I was honored when I got your email. I was really blown away by the fact that you did so much research, because this is a topic that can make people who have not lived it a little squirmy, make you pucker up a little bit, So I'm honored that you gave me this platform, Danielle, and I'm so grateful. So thank you for your time and your thoughtful questions. I'm really, really thrilled that you did this today.
Well, you're making me feel, I think the most uncomfortable thing for me was that you're thanking me now, because I feel like I should be thanking you. You're the one who has such an amazingly impressive back history of not only books, but all the different opportunities that you've excelled at in your life before the writing career. So it's been an honor to have you on the show, Dave. Thank you for joining us. You are the true honor to be speaking with. And, you're not only enlightening, but funny to talk to. And I think that everybody listening today has learned a ton, not only about the Real Black Agenda, but about the writing process in general and about you as well. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh man, thank you for having me.
Of course. And to everybody listening, again, check out the book. It's a really important text for you to learn more about the systems that weren't built for your success with the mindset required to build your own. And whether you resonate with the insights that Dave shared, or the cultural critique, or the personal transformations, I hope that we can all walk away today with at least something, a combination of that discomfort and inspiration that signals real growth. We all need that in our lives, especially in today's day and age. So again, please check out all of the links that Dave shared with us earlier. We're going to put the links in the description box of this podcast today. So go ahead and click ahead and learn more about it. And, I was looking through all your material, so be warned, listeners, he doesn't just post motivational quotes, but truth. It might burn, but that's how you know it's working, right, Dave?
The burn means it's working, Danielle. You took the words out of my mouth.
Exactly. So thank you so much again. It's been a true pleasure. And to all of our listeners, until our next conversation, remember, the books that change your lives are really the ones that make you comfortable. They're the ones that make you see clearly for the first time. And again, please just check out all of Dave's materials. This is things we all need today. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Keep writing, keep leading, keep growing. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a great day. As we close another inspiring episode, remember, every best-selling author was once just a person with a story to tell. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, inviting you to write the next chapter of your success story at authorsonmission.com. Your audience is waiting, your wisdom is ready, and your book is next.